Let's talk about something many of us feel but maybe don't always talk about. Have you ever felt this deep sense of worry or maybe even an emptiness inside, even when you feel like you're doing everything right? You're praying, you're trying to be a good person, but something's still missing. Well, today we're going to dive right into the spiritual root of that feeling and uncover the path to what's been called an earthly paradise. So here's the big question. Why is it that you can be righteous, you can be practicing, but still feel this nagging worry, this loneliness, this misery? You're reading the Qur'an, you're praying, but there's a tightness in your chest. It feels like a piece of the puzzle is just not there. And if you're nodding along right now, I want you to know you are definitely not alone. The source material we're looking at today actually diagnoses this exact feeling and, more importantly, offers a powerful remedy. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to define what this misery is and get to its spiritual root, what we'll call the price of distance. Then, we'll discover this earthly paradise, a state of real tranquility found through contemplation. We'll see how that brings about two amazing freedoms, freedom from fear and freedom from worldly grief. And maybe most important of all, we'll wrap up with a simple, powerful first step you can literally take today.
All right, let's look a little closer at this feeling. It's that tightness and worry, right? That kind of hidden loneliness that just seems to stick around no matter how many prayers you do or how much you try. It's such a confusing thing to feel because on the outside, you're checking all the boxes, but on the inside, there's just this undeniable emptiness.
Now, what's so fascinating is that the Quran itself talks about this. This isn't some new modern problem. Its roots go all the way back to the very, very beginning, to the story of Adam in paradise. And to really help us get a grip on this, the Quran gives us a single, powerful word that just perfectly captures the essence of this whole struggle. And that word is tashka. Now, this isn't just, having a bad day. Tashka is a complete state of being. It's a life of constant work and struggle and misery, with no real rest. And the Quran presents this state as the direct result of being distant from God, which is symbolized by leaving paradise itself. This verse from Surah Taha is absolutely key. God warns Adam directly, telling him, don't let him get you removed from paradise, because if you do, the result will be tashka, this life of misery. The link couldn't be clearer. Being in that state of closeness to God is the absence of this suffering. Okay, so that was the original story. But what about us, right here, right now? Well, the Quran gives us another powerful term to describe this exact same spiritual state for anyone today who turns away from that true guidance. And that term is ma'ishatan dhanka, a depressed, a constricted, a difficult life. And here's the part that is so crucial. This hardship is purely spiritual. It has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank or what your job title is. You could have all the luxury in the world and still be living this constricted, suffocating life inside. And again, the Quran just lays it out, crystal clear. This verse tells us directly, turn away from my remembrance, and the result is a constricted life. This right here is the diagnosis for that hidden emptiness that we started with. So if being distant from true guidance is the problem, what's the solution? Is the answer just to pray more or read the Qur'an more? Well, not exactly. The real cure is in a huge shift in how we engage with the Qur'an. It's about moving from a mindless ritual to a mindful contemplation. This slide just breaks it down perfectly. On the left, you've got ritual reading. It can become just a routine, right? Impersonal, something you do because you're supposed to, and you totally miss the light inside the words. But on the right, that's mindful contemplation. That's when it all changes. You start to see the Quran as a personal message sent directly to you. You feel a responsibility to think about it, and that's how you find the light. Now, when you start this journey of contemplation, two absolutely incredible freedoms start to open up for you. And the first one is freedom from fear. This comes from building a deep, unshakable reliance on God, a concept known as tawakkul. Through contemplation, verses like this one stop being just words on a page. They become living, breathing realities. They become personal reassurances. Just imagine God speaking directly to you, saying, hey, you, rely upon the ever-living who does not die. How does hearing that change the way you look at whatever you're worried about right now? So what does this true reliance, this tawakkul, really look like when things get tough? Let's look at one of the most powerful examples from history, the state of the Prophet's companions the morning after the devastating battle of Uhud. Just try to picture the scene. They were completely broken, 70 of their best friends and brothers were gone. The ones who survived were covered in wounds. Morale was at rock bottom. And then they get the news. The enemy, 4 times their size, is turning around to come and finish them off. And in that moment of absolute despair, the prophet commands them to get up and march out to face them again. So what was their response? Did they panic? Did they fall apart? No. Faced with what looked like certain death, their faith actually increased. And they declared, "Sufficient for us is God, and He is the best disposer of affairs." That right there is tawakkul in its purest, most powerful form. And this shows us the huge difference. Most of us, if we're honest, we practice a kind of false reliance. Our anchor is our job, or our bank account, or our health. The moment those things are threatened, our anchor is gone, and anxiety completely takes over. True tawakkul means your anchor is God, the unseen. That reliance doesn't budge, even when every single material thing is stripped away. Okay, so that's the first freedom. Freedom from fear. The second freedom that comes from contemplation is freedom from worldly grief. This is about being liberated from all the sadness that comes from being attached to the temporary stuff of this life. Think about it for a second. What's the real root of our grief? It's almost always tied to losing something from this world that we've grown attached to, or wanting something we can't have. Our sadness is fundamentally connected to our attachment to a place that we are all 100% destined to leave. So when you truly contemplate a verse like this, it's not just reading. It's a direct reminder that sinks right into your heart. God is telling you, don't be fooled by this life. And this constant contemplation, it starts to shift your entire perspective. Suddenly the ups and downs of this world, the gains and the losses, they start to lose their power over your heart. And the root of your grief just starts to dissolve. Okay, so this all sounds pretty profound, right? But how do you actually start? Where's the front door to this whole journey? Well, the source material gives us a beautifully simple and practical first step. Here it is. It's so simple. In your very next prayer, when you recite the opening chapter, Al-Fatiha, just slow down. That's it. Pause after each and every verse. And ask yourself some real questions. When you say, "Praise be to God, Lord of all the worlds," who are you actually praising? When you say, "Master of the day of judgment," what does that really mean for how you live today? And when you get to that powerful line, "You alone we worship," ask yourself, how should that reality change what I fear and who I rely on? You see, that simple act of just pausing and reflecting, that's the key that unlocks the door. It's the beginning of a living, breathing conversation with the Qur'an, where you feel like God is speaking directly to you. This is the path out of that constricted, difficult life and into a state of real tranquility and peace. This is your earthly paradise. So the only question left is, are you ready to find it?